And tonight on the ABC News, OJ Simpson kills one more person. Oh my god, I can't believe it. OJ kills another person? I didn't know Minute Maid orange juice could kill people. I guess what happened here was that someone poisoned the OJ and, killed somebody. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time on ABC, the horrible news in the whole world. Thank you. Well, I hope you liked how I did my commercials. I'm gonna be a star. I've always been a star. I just have to go to Hollywood, and then I'll just, everybody would be like going, oh, I want your autograph. Oh, I want your autograph. But anyways, see you later. Adios. Ciao.
Oh, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. How are you doing? It's me, Legal Vices. And it is OJ Thursday, as always. And for those of you who don't know what the hell you just watched, you may know Ari Jacob, friend of the channel. She's been on many an F Friday, and she's kind of the influencer's influencer, I guess you could say. She does quite a bit there on YouTube, working with some talents. She does a lot of consulting work. That was Ari Jacob when she was 13 years old. So yes, that was a 13-year-old Ari Jacob who she sent that to me during an F Friday show and told me to go ahead and use it for the OJ Thursdays if I wanted to. It took a while to add it, but we got it added. So thank you, Ari, for providing that and letting us use that for our official intro video. Although we are kind of winding down a little bit, I think, on OJ's. Anywho, here we are, and it is that day where it's just a chill stream where we can have a little more time to interact with chat and enjoy ourselves a little bit more while we just chill. We watch the 28-year-old OJ Simpson trial, not to convince you whether he's guilty or innocent, but just to let you see lawyers at the peak of their game, at the height of their career, doing what they do best, advocating for their client. And you can see how they put the prosecution witnesses to the question to the extent that it makes them look corrupt, incompetent, racist, criminal, etc., sufficient enough to place doubt in the minds of the jurors. So that's why we do this, to let you see how a good lawyer works and a bad prosecution fails. Other than that, that's kind of all we got. We do have a like and subscribe poll up, if I can remember what it was. Oh, there it is. The like and subscribe poll. Please, 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 please hit that like button. I know we haven't done anything to give you any reason to like this show yet, but we will. Trust me. Hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already done so. I would deeply, deeply appreciate that. And as I always warn, if you have subscribed, please double check to make sure you are still subscribed, because as happened to DNA, interesting, I was somehow unsubscribed. Never seen that happen before. WTF, man. That's why I always say make sure you are still subscribed, even if you think you've subscribed, even if you've subscribed a dozen times. Just always double check to make sure that little subscribe button is activated. Totally not a Russian bot says didn't make them look corrupt. You mean exposed corruption? Well, yes, that too. Right. So hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, make sure you're subscribed, and take our like and subscribe poll, which is who would be the strongest Jedi? Who would make the strongest Jedi, do you think? Would it be OJ Simpson? Would it be Barry-Wan Kenobshek? Would it be Lance Ito Walker? Or would it be Johnny Cokwindu? You make the choice. That's our lame poll for the day. And also you'll notice right under that is a link. It's a pinned link. We have a pinned link because we have new Law Racks merch. And let me bring that up for you so you can show what's there. This is the result of our Johnny Depp Amber Heard sidebar dramatic readings. For those of you that have been present for those, you will be happy to see that we now have where are we at? Let's share this. And we have our let's give it a whirl stuff. It's our let's give it a whirl mug. It comes in 3 colors, white, yellow, and blue. And we also have the give it a whirl pint glass. So there you go. Those are just 2 things that are linked down there. And mods, if you'll notice, I have a new merchandise link because YouTube sucks. So there is a new merch link. It's to the same store, just a new link to use because the old one apparently doesn't work because YouTube. Anywho, there we go. There's some new merchandise, and it's based on Urza, one of our. Is she here? If she comes in, we'll point her up. But Urza's Artelier. Don't ever know how to pronounce that last part of her ID, but she designed this, and so she's the awesome one that designed that particular logo. So there we go. Don't know where to go from there. So all right, that's the end of the grift. Let's just dive straight into this because we've got a lot of OJ to do. But really quickly here, what we've got coming tomorrow is YNW Melly. YNW Melly tomorrow night. We got a lot of stories. He's got 6 or 7 new charges added to his long list of charges. There'll be a separate proceeding. They don't have anything to do with this proceeding. They're totally separate. They are charges of witness tampering and a whole bunch of other associated things that he's got a new prosecutor. She brought new charges. Jury selection started yesterday, and the trial date has been set tentatively for opening statements to begin on January 8th. So that's how long they're looking at. Taking a good couple of months to get a jury seated. So that's what we're looking at. That's where things are. But we're going to have a lot of updates. We're going to have some interviews with his ex-girlfriend. We're going to be having the updated news, the crossover with the X-Station. Is that the guy's name? X-Station trial? Because X-Station that Aussie Overlord Hayden was doing a while ago, his prosecutor is now prosecuting Melly, and Cheeseburger, the prison snitch, is now going to be a prison snitch in the Melly case. The prosecutor brought her own prison snitch. How's that? That's pretty good. So we'll be talking more about that, getting into some detail next Monday, Maritime Monday. Next Tuesday, I'm hoping to do some Murdoch trial updates because he has been granted permission by the appellate court to suspend the appeals until a hearing can be held on whether or not he deserves a new trial. So they'll send it back down to the first instance court, to the district court, and they will hear the motion on whether or not Alex Murdoch should be given another new trial. So we'll hopefully talk about that Tuesday, trying to get a guest on for that. So we'll see how that works out. All right, everybody, we do not have a Chandler sighting yet. I assume that she's ensconced peacefully in her bed, wrapped up under a nice warm blanket, and is sleeping the sleep of the just, because it's ridiculously early for her, and I'm always surprised every time she wakes up anyway. So just me for tonight, folks. The Melly trial, the first Melly trial was interesting. The second one is going to be really interesting because, well, hell, we know their lead investigator is a dirtbag, and the original prosecutor was thrown off because she knew he was a dirtbag and didn't tell anybody. So anywho, there we go. Let's dive right into the YNW, the OJ Simpson murder trial. This is part 40 some odd. What is it, 46? And ANDREA MAZZOLA, we've got about 4 more weeks of her, and then we're done. Got about 4 more weeks if we plow through at a steady pace. So, all right, let's gear up. We got everything locked and loaded. We have our achievements, our Doggo Cam achievement, and the ridiculously long distance, the Give It a Whirl achievement. Everybody's locked and loaded and ready to go. Anytime, let's start.
And undergoing cross-examination by Mr. Neufeld. Good morning, Ms. Mazzola.
Good morning.
You're reminded you are still under oath, ma'am. Mr. Neufeld, you may resume.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm bigging this a bit.
Morning, Ms. Mazzola.
Good morning.
Now, Ms. Mazzola, after you left Rockingham the first time on the morning of June 13th, you and Dennis Fung went to the Bundy location. Is that right?
That's correct.
And I think you testified on direct examination that when you got there, you and Dennis Fung first talked to the detectives and waited until the coroners had finished moving the bodies before you entered the scene. Is that correct?
Sustained. Rephrase the question.
Okay. Well, Ms. Mazzola, when you first arrived, the coroners were moving the bodies, were they not?
That's correct.
And were you?
Oh, and speaking of moving bodies, I can't get through this without some booze. And today's drink of the day, because I was going to do a cocktail, but I didn't have enough time. Today's drink of the day is this Port Charlotte 10-year heavily peated Isla single malt Scotch from the great, wonderful distillery of Bruichladdich. It's 50% ABV. It's 50% alcohol, and it is very, very peaty. It's one of my faves. Very clear on the color. The coloring is very clear. Let's move this up so we can do it. Sorry, should have got this out of the way, but then I saw her and went, oh yeah, I need a drink. So, there we go. Right. Today's drink of the day is the Port Charlotte 10-year heavily peated single malt Scotch from Isla, distilled by our lovely friends at Bruichladdich Distillery, and it's 50% alcohol. Beautiful, beautiful color on this thing. Nice and light, but right off the bat, iodine. Gauze bandages. A little bit of burnt rubber and old people. There's that iodine again. Like burnt ends of meat. It's like good brisket burnt ends. Caramel, like dark caramel, almost burnt caramel. Now we got the burning rubber tires and campfire coming in on the finish. What a great whiskey this is. One of my absolute favorites. Now that burnt rubber is coming back again and laying it over like a little blanket of smoke. If that doesn't sell you on this whiskey, I don't know what is, because it is great. If you love smoky Scotch, you know what I'm talking about. So, there we go. Let's get on with the testimony. That is so good.
You present for a discussion with the
let me bring
detectives
this up.
about the scene before you personally entered the crime scene?
I don't remember if I was or not.
When you stood outside the
If you
tape,
know, you
were there
know.
any of the detectives with you?
I couldn't tell who were detectives or not.
Have you ever met Detectives Van Adder or Detective Lang?
I was not introduced to them.
Have you ever seen them on television?
Well, I know them now, yes.
And you'd recognize them?
Yes.
Okay. Well, were either of those
good.
detectives with you when you first arrived at Bundy that morning?
That question's vague. With you when you arrived?
Sorry, when you first arrived at Bundy that morning, before you actually went into the crime scene, while the
Yes,
coroners were still
Templeton Rye
moving
is a
bodies,
good rye. It's a good solid
Detective
base rye.
Van
I
Adder
like to use
standing
it in my
or
old
Detective Lang
fashions.
standing nearby you.
I don't remember.
Now, you said on direct examination that if the glove and the hat at Bundy were in contact with one another,
Yes,
trace
it is
evidence could
Valhalla.
or would be transferred. Is that an accurate statement of what you testified to?
Overruled.
It's possible that they could transfer trace, yes.
Now, you said also that when you arrived, you saw Mr. Goldman's body covered with a white blanket. Is that correct?
Sustained.
Did you see Mr. Goldman's body covered with a white object when you arrived at Bundy?
When I arrived, no.
At some point that morning, did you see Mr. Goldman's body covered with a white object at Bundy?
Overruled.
Yes.
And you had been taught that trace evidence can move when bodies are manipulated at a murder scene. Haven't you been taught that?
Yes.
Now, let me just ask you one hypothetical, ma'am.
Is it
If
possible
this
your
white
boss
object
sucked?
that was on Mr. Goldman's body had been used to also cover Ms. Nicole Brown Simpson, then is it possible that trace evidence could move from the blanket to both victims?
Sustained.
Didn't you say a moment ago, ma'am, that you had been trained
Usually.
and taught at the LAPD that trace evidence can move when bodies are manipulated?
Overruled.
Yes.
And didn't you receive some training at the Sid Mini Academy on the dangers of trace evidence contaminating or cross-contaminating different evidence at a crime scene?
The transfer of trace evidence was brought up.
Okay. Now, let me just ask you this hypothetical again. If the same white object that you saw on Mr. Goldman's body had been previously lying on top of Miss Nicole Brown Simpson,
Sustained. It's an improper hypothetical.
right?
Okay, say person A, not Nicole Simpson.
Well, would you agree, ma'am, that trace evidence can move from the white object you saw on top of the body to the clothing being worn by that person?
Is possible.
And the
Oops.
white object that you saw on top of Mr. Goldman, was that a white blanket?
I didn't get a very good look at it.
Oh, for God's sake. Because basically what happened is they're arguing cross-contamination because they
Well,
took a white
but you
blanket
did see
out of
that there was
Nicole
some white
Brown Simpson's
object that
house.
had been on top of Mr.
Perhaps
Goldman's
a
body,
white
correct?
blanket that OJ Simpson had touched at some point in the
Yes.
past. And they took
Did
this
Dennis
white blanket
Fung
out of
instruct you
Nicole
to
Brown
collect
Simpson's
and
house and
preserve that
covered
white
the
object
body
for
with it.
analysis?
Overruled.
Basically, anything
No.
on that blanket could have been transferred to the bodies.
Overruled.
He did
We
not.
don't do that.
And to your knowledge, was that white object ever preserved for trace evidence analysis?
To my knowledge, no.
Did Dennis Fung even instruct you to examine that white object while you were at Bundy that day?
No.
Which white object? Nicole Brown Simpson or Goldberg? What's his face? Sorry, my mind has just gone blank. The other dude.
As you sit here today, has anyone told
the
you
hell?
that at some point
Goldman.
during that morning, an envelope
Goldman?
and a glove
God,
had been
I'm
moved
having
at
a
the Bundy
senior moment
location?
because I'm senior.
Overruled.
Ron Goldman. God dang.
Please repeat the question again.
As you sit here today, has anyone ever told you that the envelope and the glove recovered at Bundy had been moved prior to your collection of it?
I'm not positive. They may have, but I'm not positive.
Well, I'm not asking you, and I apologize if the question was somewhat inartful. I'm not asking you whether you were told about the movement prior to your collecting it. I'm just asking you whether or not at any time up until this morning, anyone had told you that both the envelope and the glove had been moved prior to the collection of those items.
Overruled.
Now that's a thing too. They moved the glove and they moved the envelope because they apparently had to
don't
drag the
know
bodies
about
out of the
the
way,
envelope.
and then they put them back basically where they
Glove.
thought they were.
Might have been turned over. I'm not positive.
Well, most of the strike witnesses answers no responsive.
Overruled.
One second. What?
Wow, I was listening to myself. My mic is super hot.
And Ms. Mazzola, who was the person who told you that the glove was turned over?
As soon as facts not available.
Overruled.
I can't remember who it was.
Did you speak to Dennis Fung about it?
I don't think so. I'm not.
Did you speak to other supervisors at SID?
I'm not sure who it was.
You said also that at
Hey, Dover,
Bundy and
what's
Rockingham, you
up?
were a pair
What's
of
up,
rubber
Dover,
gloves
UK in
protected
the
from
house.
any kind of biohazards. Is that correct?
The state's testimony.
Overruled. But we've already covered this.
Well, as you sit here today, ma'am, do you have any independent recollection as to whether or not you changed your gloves at any point while you were at Bundy?
I changed my gloves several times.
You have an independent recollection of that?
Yes.
Did you testify in direct examination, ma'am, that it was your practice to
Yeah, my
simply
mic
change your
sounds like
gloves
shit,
when
doesn't
they became
it?
uncomfortable? Remember testifying to that?
It states the testimony.
Sustained.
Didn't you testify on direct examination that it was your practice to change your gloves either when it became uncomfortable or when you went into a new area? Is that your testimony?
Calls for hearsay.
Overruled.
They only changed
testimony,
gloves when it became uncomfortable
I
or when they
don't
left
remember if
the
it's my
area.
exact words.
Well, fine. In sum and substance, is that what you testified to?
It's irrelevant.
Overruled. You can answer the question.
I assume so.
And as you sit here today, do you have an independent recollection of finding the gloves uncomfortable at one point or another?
They became uncomfortable. We moved around. We changed gloves. You don't really need a reason to do it.
Well, no, ma'am, I'm just asking you, based on what you testify were your reasons for changing gloves, do you have an independent recollection as you sit here today of experiencing discomfort with the gloves and changing them as a result of that while you were at Bundy?
Yes,
You do have that recollection. And when did that occur, ma'am?
several times.
Tell me which times, at what point?
I don't remember the exact point.
Tell me as best you can, ma'am. When were the several times that you changed your gloves while you were at Bundy?
I don't remember exactly when I changed my gloves.
Well, give me approximately when, ma'am. You said it happened 2 or 3 times.
I think that misstates the evidence. Rephrase the question.
How many times did you say you did it, ma'am?
I changed my gloves many times. There's no reason to change it. You don't think about it. You just do it.
You're phrasing it differently.
You said you have an independent recollection that you changed your gloves many times while you were at Bundy. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. Tell me the first time you changed your gloves at Bundy, ma'am.
As I said before, I don't know the exact time when I changed my gloves.
Well, tell me what you were doing at the moment you changed your gloves the first time, ma'am.
I don't remember.
Do you remember what you were doing the second time you changed your gloves?
No, I don't think when I change my gloves, I just do it.
So you don't have any independent recollection as to what you were doing at any point when you say you changed your gloves?
That's correct.
She's getting a little bit testy there, isn't she? I think we have it worked out now.
And one moment.
I think she's saying it's not a boomer thing. Everybody that knows. I mean, it's the stupid StreamYard, and they think they know how the audio should sound. But I think we got it worked out now. But yeah, she's getting mad because they're pointing out that she only changes
Ma'am,
gloves occasionally
between
when
the
she
time that
thinks
you
about
picked
it,
up
when
the
she's
hat and the
uncomfortable,
glove at Bundy,
when she leaves
you
you,
didn't
not
change your
after
gloves
each
then, did
piece
you?
of evidence.
No,
And the reason you know that you didn't do that then is because you saw it on the videotape. Isn't that correct?
I did see a videotape, yes.
Well, and that's the reason you know that you didn't change your gloves then, isn't it?
At that point, yes.
In fact, I think you testified that until you saw the videotape, you didn't even have an independent recollection of having picked up the glove and the hat at Bundy that day. Isn't that correct?
That misstates the evidence.
Overruled.
I wasn't sure if I picked them up or Mr. Fung.
Right. And so in the absence of an independent, I'm sorry, so am I correct in stating that you didn't have an independent recollection of it until you actually saw the videotape?
I could not remember. That is correct.
Are you ready on that? With permission, I just want to show the portion of the videotape where she's picking up the hat and the glove.
Yeah, it's been a little weird, but hey, we're doing it. We're doing as best we
Gary?
can. Hey, Strawberry, what's up? What's up, little buddy? The dog has come to visit. OJ's a mouth breather.
May I, with the court's permission?
Yes.
Hey, happy birthday to your doggos. Your doggo's 11 years old today.
Doesn't look
Oh,
like
if you
it.
guys live to be 11, I'll be happy.
Do we have it
Bulldogs.
queued up to the portion that's pertinent here? Because we've already seen this tape before, Council.
No, I'm-
Bulldogs
I'm
live
asking
a
for just
frighteningly
unfortunately
short
just
life,
picking it up.
poor little bastards.
My question was, is it queued up?
Yes, it is.
Mazzola, can you stop 1 second?
Ms. Mazzola.
Ms. Mazzola, you a lefty?
Right-handed.
Okay. But you picked up the hat with your left hand, is that right?
Yes.
So
And
I do a lot of things with my offhand.
could you go forward then?
All right, let's frame 1351-4618.
Stop. Stop. Now, Ms. Mazzola, at this point, you are using obviously the same hands with the same gloves, and you are opening up the bag, correct, for the next item?
Correct.
And the next item is the glove, right?
Correct.
And you are, okay, continue, please.
There she is, picking up the evidence. Just picking it up.
And stop. Now, Ms. Mazzola, you used the same left hand to pick up the glove that you used to pick up the hat, right?
Correct.
In fact, you used the same fingers, didn't you?
Ugh.
I don't know if it's the exact same fingers, but I use the same hand.
All right. And Ms. Mazzola, you didn't, in between picking up the hat and the glove, look down to see whether or not you had picked up any other biological material or any trace evidence on your hand, did you?
No.
In fact, before you picked up the hat, you didn't inspect your hand to see whether or not you had any other biological
It might be bags
matter
and
on your
asses again.
fingertips, did you?
No.
And after you picked up the hat and put it in the bag, you didn't inspect your hand to see whether or not there was any trace evidence from the hat before you picked up the glove, did you?
No.
Had you been taught to do that, ma'am, at the Sid Mini Academy?
No.
Oof. Oof. Kind of looks like it, doesn't it? She's throwing everything in one bag.
Would you agree, ma'am, that it's possible the trace evidence from the hat can be transferred to the rubber glove, transferred to your rubber glove when you pick it up?
It's possible.
And would you agree, ma'am, that it's possible the trace evidence that's on your rubber glove can then be transferred to the leather glove when you pick that up?
Improbable, since I handled other items
Hey,
between
Nicholas.
picking up the hat and the glove.
Ma'am, did you say before that one way the trace evidence gets transferred from one object to another is when those two objects come in contact?
Correct.
And would you agree that not every time two objects come in contact, does trace evidence move from one object to the next? Right?
Right. Oh, just say right. You know it's
Depends on
true.
what type of items they are.
Oh, for
Depends on what
fuck's
type
sakes.
of items they are. It depends where the fibers are. Isn't that right?
Correct.
Depends where the hairs are.
Correct.
Okay. So you could handle several different things, and the hairs and fibers might not come off on the first thing or the second thing you touch, but might come off on the third item. Isn't that correct?
Correct.
Now, initially on direct examination, Ms. Mazzola, didn't you say that it wasn't necessary to change your gloves between picking up the hat and the leather glove because the two objects were touching?
Oh, God.
Did you testify to that on
This
direct
is so
examination?
bad.
They were in close contact,
Did you
yes.
testify, not that they were simply in close contact, but did you testify that they were actually touching?
I don't remember if I said touching or close contact.
Well,
or
would
what.
you agree, when you use the expression close contact, does that mean touching to you, or does that mean that the two objects are close to one another but not actually touching?
Could be anywhere from extremely close to each other to actually touching.
What? There is no such
Well,
thing as
how did
close
you mean it when
contact.
you said in close proximity, ma'am,
Close proximity. Yeah, okay, that means close to it, not touching.
Extremely close,
but
Yeah.
not necessarily touching.
not necessarily touching.
23.
Close contact. It's either close or it's contact. There is no other option.
Wait 1 minute.
By a man? Doubt it.
Line 23. Okay. Ms. Mazzola, when you testified on direct examination last week in this case, were you asked these questions and did you give these answers? Question. And did you change gloves in between collecting the hat and the glove? Answer, no. Question by Mr. Goldberg, why not? Answer. The hat and the glove at Bundy were touching each other. They were not in two completely separate areas.
Oof.
They were in physical contact with each other.
Oh God. Oh God, that's pretty straightforward. Holy shit. And they're close to each other. No, you just said they were basically having sex with each other. The hat and the glove were having intercourse with each other. That's what you were saying previously. Now you can't go back and say they were looking at each other and making eyes at each other across the room, Mazzola.
Were you asked those questions and did you give those answers last week at this trial?
Apparently so, yes.
Apparently so.
And-
Holy shit. And she gave this last week and she couldn't. She gave that statement last week. Now, if you don't lie, you don't have to remember and you don't have to say, oh, I guess I said that. If you're not sure, say, I'm not sure. Saying I did this and then them shoving a tape or a report or a test or something in front of you to show that you're lying or you were completely, utterly 180 degrees mistaken is a lot worse than going, I can't honestly remember. Because what are they going to do? Go, oh, you have a bad memory. You go, yeah. But if you make a definitive statement that the hat and the glove were crawling all over each other and pawing at each other like furtive teenagers in the back of a car at a drive-in movie in the 1980s, then you can't go back later and say that they just passed each other on opposite sides of the street.
Ma'am,
It makes you look
after
dumb.
you testified to that, there was a recess, wasn't there?
Oh, all right. It's that time. It's that time. He's getting to me. It's those of you with earphones, be on the lookout. Be on the lookout because it's Invasion of the Body Snatchers time. I'm sorry, Peter Neufeld will never stop looking like Donald Sutherland in
I
Invasion
don't
of
know
the
if there
Body
was a
Snatchers.
recess or not.
I just couldn't resist.
Well,
I resisted for how long? 34
later
minutes.
on, Mr. Goldberg asked you the same question again about the physical relationship to the hat and the glove. Did he not?
You were warned,
I
John.
don't
Gordon.
remember.
You were warned.
Right. Reading now from page 23790.
Urza's here. That's Urza's merch we showed a little bit earlier. Urza, you're up there in the link now, so thank you so much for that lovely, lovely artwork that we have on our new merch. And please
23790.
email me your address.
For what purpose?
To get a stipulation about a recess.
Proceed.
Are you ready on this other page? Sure.
It is.
Well,
Hers is Elaine in the emergency.
Starting on-
Give it a whirl! Merch is absolutely fantastic. Got a coffee mug and a pint
Oh my
glass
God.
up there. If any of you think, if any of you really want me to put it on other merch, t-shirts and things, I can, but that's not really a wearable thing. I mean, probably don't want to walk out with that on a hoodie or something. Confuse people and look silly.
26.
Right. If you want any more household products or whatnot, tumblers, water bottles, whatever, I can do that. But we just put it on coffee mugs and a pint glass.
Ma'am, after the luncheon recess, were you asked,
You need a foundational question for two.
well, ma'am, at page 23790, were you asked these questions and did you give these answers? Question by Mr. Goldberg. Okay. Now, you said on direct examination, when I was asking you about collecting the glove and the watch cap, the cap, that they were in close proximity or touching. Answer, Question, which was it? Answer, reviewing photographs, they were in very close proximity to each other. Were you asked those questions? Did you give those answers?
Yes.
And just before you asked those questions and you gave those answers at page 23790, were you sitting in this courtroom and present when Judge Ito said to you,
Wait. Do you recall if there was a recess of any type in between those questioning?
I honestly can't remember when the recesses are.
All right, court will
can I show
take,
the transcript for federal record?
wait. We have a procedure called taking judicial notice of the court's own proceedings. I will take judicial notice, and the jury is to assume to be true the fact that there was in fact a recess in between those two questions. It's a matter of the court's own record. Proceed.
Thank you.
Okay, that was weird. All right.
Now, during that luncheon recess, Ms. Mazzola, did the prosecutor tell you that the photographs would not support your testimony that the hat and glove were actually touching?
Perhaps we can approach. I object to counsel's insinuations.
Do you have any discussion with the prosecutor or any attorney regarding this issue over the lunch recess that you recall?
I looked at a photograph.
Proceed.
And is that photograph shown to you by the prosecutor?
I can't recall who showed it to me, but I saw a photograph.
You didn't have it on your own. Someone else in this building had to show it to you. Is that right?
Correct.
And it was after you were shown those photograph or a photograph that you then changed your testimony after lunch. Is that correct?
I saw that they were extremely close, but not touching. Yes.
And so you changed your testimony after lunch. Is that correct?
I corrected it. Yes.
Thank you. And ma'am, is it your position that the reason you didn't have to change your gloves between picking up the hat and the glove is because the two items were in close proximity to one another?
Correct.
Well, when you make that decision that two objects in close proximity but not touching don't require a change of gloves on your part, are you assuming that the hat and the glove were worn by the same person?
I don't assume anything.
And you can't assume anything
That's
about that,
correct.
can you?
That's correct.
So you don't know whether or not the hat and the glove were worn by the same person, do you?
That's
Nope.
correct.
You certainly didn't know that at the time you were collecting the items.
Nope.
That's correct.
And you don't even know when the items were placed at that location where you collected them. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
You don't know whether those two items were placed on the ground at different times, do you?
No.
That is correct.
And isn't it true, since you can't assume either of those two facts, ma'am, that one cannot assume that just because two items are close to one another, although not touching, that the trace evidence on one will most likely be on the other?
Assumes fact not notice it was traceable.
Sustain.
Well, in the event that there, I'm sorry, one moment.
Yes.
When you pick up the hat, you have to be careful because there may be trace evidence on it. That's something that you were taught at the SID Mini Academy. Isn't that right?
I was taught that, yes.
And you're also taught to be careful. With different items
to be
that are
careful.
collected at the crime scene because they may have different types
Well
of
on
hairs
our
and
way.
fibers on them. Isn't that correct?
Not necessarily different hairs and fibers, but just hairs and fibers.
Well, were you taught to assume that all items found at a crime scene are likely to have the same hairs and fibers because they're found at the same crime scene?
Hair, fibers, knees and toes, knees and toes. See, now, this is, in a way, I feel really bad for her. Now, I mean, she's been getting spanked the past few episodes, but now she's just getting pummeled. That was just like tenderizing the meat. Now they're just going in for the full-on breaded cutlet. They're just hammering it down. They're going to drop her into some oil and slap some gravy on her and feed her to the people because she's not doing so great. And you can just see, I mean, just in her voice, she's done. Her voice is just, ugh. But on the other hand, as Brenanko is saying, she kind of does, because she spent probably, I'll go out on a limb and say an hour, maybe a little more than an hour of total time complaining that he kept calling her an assistant, kept calling her a noob, basically saying she was new on the job. She didn't have any experience. This was only her third or fourth murder scene she'd ever been to. And she fought back. Saying, no, I'm a criminalist 1. I'm not an assistant. We don't have an assistant. I'm just a junior grade. I'm qualified. I'm doing this. So as we talked a little bit about last week, her insisting that she's not an assistant, she's not a trainee, she's not a noob, she's a criminalist 1 by God, and she's qualified. By insisting on that for such a long time, she has completely removed the possibility of her going, hey, I'm just a dumb noob assistant trainee that they didn't train me right. They didn't tell me what to do. I was following in the footsteps of that fuckwit Dennis Fung, who you guys watched make an idiot of himself for the last 10 days, or 8.5 days anyway. She's hamstrung herself. She cannot rely on that. She just spent so much time saying that she is super qualified and not a noob that there's no way she can go back and go, I guess, wait, I am an assistant. I'm a cook, a lowly cook. She can't go back and do that. She asserted that she is super awesome criminalist 1. Now she's got to live with that. She can't go back and say, I don't know what I was doing. They didn't train me. I was poorly trained. So yeah, on the one hand, I just feel bad that they're pounding the hell out of her. And on the other, tis what it is. We do have, Patrick Hemkin, Jeff, what is Halloween like in Korea? Oh my gosh, Halloween in Korea. I don't even know if we're going to have one this year, because last year there was a big super Halloween party crush in Itaewon. I don't know if you heard about that, if you might remember it. But 159 people were killed, and about, I think it was 169 or 179 were hospitalized, mostly late teens, early 20s people. So yeah, Halloween this year is probably going to be a very, very subdued time. Torgo the White, who's been a member for 1 month again. If the glove does not fit, then you must unbread it. She's breading the shit out of herself here. Thank you so much for that. The first readable membership chat. We have no super chats yet. No memberships to talk about. So let's move right along.
There's no telling what type of hairs or fibers are present.
And there's no telling whether or not the same hairs and fibers on one object would be found on another object, correct?
Correct.
And you can't make that assumption based on how far apart 2 items are to one another, can you?
Correct.
So, ma'am, wouldn't you agree that your earlier testimony in this case that you didn't have to change your gloves between picking up the hat and the leather glove here because they were close to one another, and therefore trace evidence on one would be on the other one, is not really consistent with what you were taught by the SID people.
Did you even understand that question, Mazzola?
I don't know.
When you say you don't know, do you mean you don't know what the supervisors at SID taught you?
I'm saying I don't know if it would be inconsistent with,
Well, if the objects had been 15 feet apart, had you been taught by people at SID Academy to change gloves before picking up the different objects?
Oral.
Oh no.
gloves would be changed.
You were taught that they should be changed under those circumstances.
Oh God. See, just I fault the prosecution majorly for doing absolute shit jobs of preparing their witnesses in this case. Just shut up, answer the questions, answer only what's asked, don't obfuscate, because now it's like, oh, you know, they were in the same area, they were so close to each. Well, first she says they're basically on top of each other, you know, playing, you know, games with each other. Again, a little touchy-feely, the glove and the hat. Then she testifies, oh, they were kind of close to each other. And he's like, oh, well, you know, I didn't need to change my gloves because, you know, they're in the same area, they're close to each other, whatnot. And he's saying, well, okay, say the evidence is 15 feet away. Do you change your gloves? Well, yeah, all right. And then he's going to do was it 14 feet? Do you change them? 13 feet? Do you change them? 12 feet? Do you change them? That's the implication he's giving the jury is, okay, where do you draw the line, Mazzola? Shouldn't it just be after every piece of evidence? Or is there a certain distance that the evidence must be from another piece of evidence in order for you to change your gloves? Just, oh my God, this woman.
Well, if they were far apart, yes.
Well, I said 10 or 15 feet apart under
Right.
those circumstances.
Not getting down to exact distances, but
that's
far
what you-
apart, yes.
There's got to be an
in your own
exception.
mind, based on your own experience, do you consider 10 feet far apart?
Yes,
So you would change the gloves under those circumstances.
9 feet?
yes,
How about 5 feet?
No, he went to 5 feet.
yes,
3 feet?
yes.
3 feet is
You
far
made a
apart.
decision here that because the two items were within inches of one another, that you didn't have to change the gloves. Is that correct?
Since that's not that.
No, it doesn't.
Oral.
See, this is exactly what I said. She set herself up so well for this. All right, where is that line, Ms. Mazzola? Where's the line? You know, at 1 inch and, you know, 1 5/8 inches, you don't have to, but 1 6/8 inches, you have to change your gloves. You can't just say if they're close or far away. You either do it after each piece of evidence or it doesn't really fucking matter. Wolfram, however, matters. Wolframs matter. Thank you so much for giving us our very, very first super chat at the 49-minute mark. Thank you so much for that. No super chats. Well, let's get the party started. Give it a whirl. Well, we should. Oh, Strawberry, don't get excited. There's still a long way to go. All right, let's get back to the evisceration. Thank you so much, Wolfram, for kicking us off. Let's see what happens.
The decision to change gloves was made. We did not change gloves.
Was the decision made by you or was the decision given to you by Dennis Fung?
Miss K. Grip, she isn't used to guessing inches. No.
I can't recall if
Okay,
I asked him
That's the
about it
comment of the
or
day so far.
what. I'm not exactly sure what conversation we had at that
I mean, it
time.
may very well be that you asked Dennis Fung whether you should change your gloves for this situation. He said no.
It's possible.
What? Wait, what? Wait, what? No. No. He just said, is it possible? Dennis Fung, it's possible, Dennis? She asked, should I change my gloves? And Dennis Fung said, no. What the hell is that? That's stupid, but, you know, what are you going to do? Can't be unsaid. A little late to be throwing him under the bus. All right, let's embiggen this. So we play that little bit here
You know,
again.
the decision to change gloves was made. We did not change gloves.
Was the decision made by you, or was the decision given to you by Dennis Fung?
I can't recall if I asked him about it or what. I'm not exactly sure what conversation we had at that
I mean, it
time.
may very well be that you asked Dennis Fung whether you should change your gloves for this situation. He said no.
It's possible.
Ordinarily, I would agree, but that just sounds like a bigger lie than you need. I mean, why? She's a criminalist one. She's not a beginner. She doesn't need all this help. Come on, lady. You know, you're not an amateur. Why do you need to ask somebody if you should change gloves? If you're a qualified criminalist one, not a trainee assistant, etc., etc. And do you really think that Fung's, well, maybe you would, but do you really think Fung is going to be going, no, God damn it, don't you fucking dare change gloves. Those items are close to each other. I don't know.
Now, also on the 13th, did you recover a set of keys in the dirt at Bundy?
Yes.
And when you recovered that set of keys, Ms. Mazzola, did you notice that there was blood on them?
Since that's not in the
Overruled.
I can't recall if I remember seeing blood or not.
Wow.
Well, would you agree, based on your training, that the presence of blood on keys might be evidence that someone used the keys to defend themselves?
Or attack someone.
Sustained.
Have you been trained as a criminalist to make an effort to identify relevant evidence?
overly broad.
Overruled.
To identify relevant elephants. What?
Yes.
And have you been trained as a criminalist to identify when items of evidence have blood on them?
You notice if something has blood, yes.
And if it has blood on it, that's something that's going to get special attention from you as a criminalist, isn't it?
Vague.
Extreme close-up.
Overruled.
Ooh, this
It
makes me
is-
want to do the noise again.
Handled slightly differently.
And so if the keys had blood on them, as a criminalist, wouldn't you want to have those keys examined for serology purposes?
Well,
Overruled.
It is possible they would go to serology.
Well, don't the serologists and other people at SID expect the criminalist who
Defense
is
about
collecting
$6
the
million.
evidence to give them a debriefing, so to speak, of what you found and to hear your
But if you mean
suggestions
their
on
net
what should be
worth,
done? Isn't that something you're expected to do?
I don't know.
That would be up to the supervising criminalist.
Okay, and, but you would agree that the supervising criminalist, whoever he or she may be in a given crime scene, is expected to brief the other people at SID as to what items may have relevant or potentially relevant evidence.
no foundation, helps speculation.
Overruled. You can ask the question.
Yes.
And based on what you were taught, you would expect a supervising criminalist to tell the people at SID that keys that were recovered had blood on them.
Sustained.
Now, you also picked up an envelope which contained eyeglasses at the Bundy scene, didn't you?
Yes.
Oh, the eyeglasses.
Did you see the body of Mr. Goldman dragged across that envelope?
No.
You noted on your field notes that morning that the envelope contained eyeglasses, correct?
Correct.
And
She just looks so uncomfortable. Criminalist sounds like the astrology of criminal
Your
science.
training at
the tarot, if you
SID.
will. She's the criminalist of
Have
pentacles.
you read personally, or has anyone at SID read to you the following provision of the Los Angeles Police Department manual, referring to section 510.10?
This isn't a proper procedure, it's hearsay.
Sustained.
Well, in your training at SID,
that was
were you
during the
given
heyday,
instruction
man.
as to what methods to utilize for the proper booking of items of evidence?
Yes,
This was
And
95.
were you told or
Sally
instructed
was at the height of her career.
that when you take an item which is in a closed container, that you are expected to open that container to see what's inside? Is that something you've been taught?
that is something that's been mentioned, yes.
Mentioned or taught?
And is there in fact a standard procedure utilized at SID for inspecting envelopes or other types of closed containers when you collect them to investigate what's inside?
I don't know if there's a standard procedure or not.
Or is it your procedure to simply open the item and look inside and see what's there?
No.
I leave that to the more experienced criminalists.
Oh,
No. You noted on your property. You noted on your property, I'm sorry, Drawn. You noted on your field notes, Ms. Mazzola, that item 39 that was collected was an envelope with glasses. Is that correct?
Check the item number. Yes,
And did Mr. Fung open the envelope in your presence to show you that there was a pair of eyeglasses inside?
the envelope was not securely closed. You could see there were glasses inside.
Okay, so you saw a pair of eyeglasses inside just by looking through a partial opening in the envelope?
Correct.
And when you examined that pair of eyeglasses inside, did there seem to be anything unusual about it?
It's too unusual.
Oh, well.
We just know that there were eyeglasses inside, and that was the extent of it.
I'm sorry, couldn't you have the last part of your answer, ma'am?
So we just noted that there were eyeglasses inside the envelope, and that was the extent of it.
And at that point, when you peered into that envelope, you didn't notice that anything was missing from that,
Envelope
from those pair of
peering.
eyeglasses. Is that correct?
That's correct as far as I could see.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, I'd like the witness to open the envelope
Demonstrate how you
For
open
item.
the envelope.
39.
Or
Do you have
envelope,
any
as
butcher
I
paper
pronounce it.
and
Here.
gloves?
I guess she needs gloves too.
Why should she start using gloves now?
Mr. Newfeld, I've asked Mrs. Robertson to see if she could get a sheet of butcher paper because of the nature of that item.
Ms. Mazzola. Well, while they're working with that, we'll do our little midstream grift here. I don't know if we'll keep the volume up just in case. But anyway, it is now 1 hour into the show here. We've got 184 peeps and 136 likes. So about 50 of you need to get down there and hit the like button. Please do that. Hit the like button and take our like and subscribe poll.
Counter in front of you there.
Let's see how we're doing.
All right, Mr. Newfeld, proceed. And this is evidence item court evidence item, which Mr. Nicole.
It's people.
All right, we'll pause this here and not mute it. Let's just pause it while she plays with her paper towels. The midstream grift is brought to you by nobody. But please do hit that like and subscribe button. If you have subscribed, please just double check and make sure you still are. And take our like and subscribe poll. The question is, who would be the strongest Jedi? Who would make the strongest Jedi? There's 162 votes, so most of you seem to have voted. Currently, Lance Ito Walker is in last place with 7%. Coming in third place with 22% of the vote, OJ Simpson. Well, I don't know. He seems to maybe have demonstrated good blade skills. Coming in second place with 31% is Barry Juan Kanobshek. And leading the pack with 39% of the vote, Johnny Cokwindu. So there we go. That's our lame poll of the day. And with that, I think that's all we got tomorrow morning, U.S. time anyway. We've got Melly coming up, YNW Melly updates, new prosecutor, new charges, witness tampering, etc., etc., etc. Jury selection has started. A new prison snitch. We've got a lot of news to cover and a lot of reports and a couple of interviews and things to go through. That's going to be a good deal. Monday, we're going to try to do a Maritime Monday case. Tuesday, hopefully we'll be able to do a Murdoch update because he is going to get a hearing on whether or not he should get a new trial. Thanks to Becky Hill. All right, that's our midstream upgrade, griftathon, whatevs. Let's get back to the OJ Simpson trial. Oh, I'm so small. That's what she said. All right, here we go.
Your plastic bag.
Thank you. Proceed. Mr. Goldberg, if you want to stand behind counsel there, you're welcome to do so.
Now, Ms. Mazzola, before you begin opening this, the Ziploc bag, the large Ziploc bag that the items are in, can you tell what items are actually inside the Ziploc bag?
There is a brown paper bag with writing on it.
Okay.
There
We should
is
acknowledge the
a white
vice racks of the
envelope
day, Wolfram. The highest and only super chat of the day. So
with
you
writing
are
on
blessed
it,
with the
and
law
appears
racks,
to be a pair of
vice
glasses
racks of the
inside.
day so far.
And there appears to be 2 paper bindles with writing on each.
Now, the brown paper bag that you just described, would that be the brown paper bag that the white envelope with the eyeglasses in it was placed into at the crime scene?
Yes.
Okay. Could you please open the exhibit, please?
Don't you have that rule in New York?
You ain't from around here, are you? Rules are important.
The witness is breaking the seals that are at the top zip
She's
part
got
of the bag.
She's got to pee.
Mr. Newfield.
Now, would you please open the white envelope as well that was inside the bag? And remove the contents.
They're just like mine. Oh.
I wouldn't do that if I were you.
She made a threat.
Now,
I wouldn't do that if I were you.
Ms. Mazzola, how many lenses are inside that envelope?
1.
And this lens that you see in the envelope isn't even in the eyeglasses, right? It's outside the glasses, correct? But when you look in the envelope,
Oh,
Okay.
good morning, Mr.
there was
Uncivil
nothing
Law.
unusual about the pair of eyeglasses, correct?
Overruled.
I saw a pair of glasses.
Okay. You didn't notice, I'm sorry, withdrawn. Would you please feel the rest of the brown paper bag to see if there's any other lens in that?
Does not appear to be anything.
And there are 2 small bindles in there. Could you feel those to see if there's a lens in that? You don't have to open it.
Feel it, touch it, pet it, make it your
Does not appear to
own.
be a lens.
Ms. Mazzola, do you know what happened to the second lens after you collected this pair of eyeglasses on the morning of June 13th?
Assumes facts not in evidence.
Sustain.
Ms. Mazzola, you said a moment ago that when you collected the item, it was a pair of eyeglasses, correct?
Correct.
And you said that they were intact at that point, correct?
States the testimony.
Sustain.
Ms. Mazzola, did you say that you didn't notice anything at all unusual about the pair of eyeglasses?
Asked and answered.
Overruled.
Oh.
I believe I said I noticed a pair of eyeglasses.
And did you also say that you didn't notice anything unusual when you peered into that envelope and looked at the pair of eyeglasses?
I noticed that there were a pair of eyeglasses in the envelope. I did not open the envelope.
Did you also testify a moment ago that when you looked into the envelope,
Answer.
though, you didn't notice anything unusual?
Third time.
From what I could see, and as far as I looked, they were just a pair of eyeglasses.
And if a lens was missing from the pair of eyeglasses, that would be unusual, would it not?
That would be it.
Overruled.
Oh, oh, Lord have mercy, Ms. Mazzola. God dang. Just say I didn't examine the evidence inside. I just looked to make sure it said evidence. It said the eyeglasses on the outside. I looked at here's some eyeglasses. I didn't examine them in detail. But no, she's got to go, oh, yeah, they looked, I didn't see anything unusual. And then she says, well, I guess it would be unusual if the lenses were missing. So now they're going to say not only are there not lenses in the frame, there's one of the lenses is missing. What the fuck happened to the eyeglasses, Mazzola?
Would be yes.
To your knowledge, has any investigation been conducted by the Scientific Investigation Division of the Los Angeles Police Department to find out where the second lens is?
Also, if you're saying it's irrelevant.
If she knows.
Assumes facts not in evidence.
Sustain.
You can put that away now, man.
Thank you.
Actually, just wait 1 minute.
Uh-oh, is this a Columbo moment? Just one more question.
With permission, I'd like to show another brief snippet of videotape
The mid-90s,
Which
shoulder
videotape?
pads, baggy
Videotape
suits,
of,
sensible
um,
skirts.
that was shown both
Those were the
by-
days.
on the direct examination, also by the defense,
That doesn't
Miss-
help me. Which videotape?
of Miss Mazzola passing the envelope to Dennis Fung.
That comment assumes facts that aren't in evidence, but you can show the videotape.
Passing an item to Dennis Fung behind the coroners.
You can show the videotape.
Item 1082, Exhibit 1082.
We're looking at frames 1335, 10 to 13.
Yeah, could you just back up a second, please? Okay. Now, Ms. Mazzola, you said on direct examination that the object, was your opinion that the object that you were passing to Mr. Fung at this moment
She
is not
passed
the envelope
eyeglasses?
which contained the eyeglasses. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And I believe you said that it was your practice not to pass an object that had blood on it to an individual who didn't have gloves on. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Ah,
And is that your basis for concluding it's not the envelope?
That and It does not appear to be the right packaging. The main thing is I would not pass anything with blood on it to an ungloved colleague.
Why not?
Now,
You would pass. Oh my
By the
lord!
time you picked up that envelope, it's already,
I would not pass something with blood on it to an ungloved colleague. But no, you'll collect 3 different blood stains with the same swab. No, you'll pick up the same. You'll pick up 2 separate pieces of evidence wearing the same gloves, etc., etc. Oh, but you would never do something as dumb as hand some evidence with blood on it to someone who wasn't wearing gloves. No.
sometime, what, around noon, would you say, on the 13th?
I don't know the exact time.
Well, certainly later than 11 o'clock in the morning, right?
Yes.
And by that time, the blood on the envelope had dried, had it not?
It might have.
Ah.
And ma'am, isn't it true that
It's ma'am.
one side of that envelope doesn't have very much blood on it? Take a look at it.
That's correct.
Could you please show the jury, hold it up for the jury, first the side, the back of the envelope, which has a fair amount of blood on it.
A fair
And now
amount.
please turn it around and display for the jury the side of the envelope, which is pretty clean and doesn't have much blood on it. I withdraw that.
Jury can draw its own conclusion.
Yes, the jury can decide whether it's pretty clean and free of blood or not.
Would you agree, ma'am, that the object in the video is not a brown bag?
Does not appear to be.
Let me just ask, 1492, were you able to see that? All right, thank you.
One moment. Could you turn over the envelope, please?
She's looking oddly like a short-haired version of Geddy Lee today. Lead singer from Rush, in case you didn't know that. Ouch, Heather Sparrow bringing the heat. There's more blood on that envelope than in Rosario's apartment. Yikes.
And would you agree that it is not a coin envelope?
It does not appear to be one of the smaller coin envelopes.
Well, Ms. Mazzola, when you were packing items of evidence that day, keys, the beeper and other items, you put them in envelopes such as this that I'm showing you right now, indicating prosecution's exhibit 1630, D as in David?
They were in coin envelopes. The size depending on the size of the item.
Sigh.
Ma'am, isn't it true that that day on June 13th, you had no coin envelopes that were the size of the object shown in the picture that you're looking at right now?
I can't recall if we had that size in the kits or not. I don't know.
It's not a plastic bag, is it, Ms. Mazzola?
No,
It's not the posse box, is it, Ms. Mazzola?
no,
And all of your notes that day were being written on a clipboard, is that correct?
that's correct.
You didn't keep any small pad for any other purpose, did you?
No,
And that's not the clipboard, is it?
no.
This is exactly, almost word for word, the same line of questioning that Barry Scheck went down when asking about that envelope with Dennis Fung. And you can see from the look on Barry Scheck's face back here that he's like, yep, here we go again. This is exactly what he asked Fung. Fung's like, I don't know if that's the eyeglass. He's like, well, is it the lockbox? Is it a plastic bag? Is it this? Is it that? Is it the other thing? And he kept saying, no. So, okay, look at the list of evidence, and we've said exactly what it isn't. So what is the only remaining possibility it could be? And that's essentially what he's doing with her. Let's take a look at everything around you. If you're not sure if it was the glasses, let's look at everything around you. Was it this? Was it that? Was it the other thing? Okay, well, then what must it have been just by process of elimination?
Before you took the witness stand on direct examination,
Oh, and there's your previous testimony.
during your prep session,
Oh, okay.
were you told that the defense in this case had suggested that this item in this picture was in fact the envelope that contained the glasses? Had you been told that?
I remember it being mentioned, yes.
And had you been told also that when Dennis Fung was confronted with that allegation, that Dennis Fung denied it?
Which allegation?
That item that you see in that image is in fact the envelope that contained the eyeglasses. We told that Dennis Fung denied it.
I might have been told that.
Referring
So-
to the image at 133407.
Yes.
She deserves her own bus to be thrown under. Yeah.
Being printed as sub-item C.
All right, 1082 sub C.
Right.
Thank you, counsel.
Get that dot matrix printer warmed up. Sounds very inkjetty. I'd recognize the sound of an inkjet printer
Now,
anywhere.
when you testified at the trial last week on direct examination, Mr. Goldberg simply put up this image and asked you whether it was the envelope. Is that correct?
It's irrelevant.
Oh, well.
How is that irrelevant?
Oh, well.
I believe so.
But when you were prepped on this particular matter during the prep sessions, you had been told that it was the defense position that it was the envelope, weren't you? You've been told that.
Yes, I believe so.
And when you were told that,
Oh.
didn't Mr. Goldberg or other prosecutors tell you that it was the prosecution's position that it was not the envelope?
I don't believe they told me that they believed it was not the envelope.
Did they tell you they believed it was the envelope?
I don't recall if they told me one way or another.
Yeah. Scratching your face isn't going to help here, Conan. Oh, she's not doing well. She's doing quite poorly. I mean, she doesn't have a lot to work with to begin with, but I mean, hell, here we've got her. Just now she's admitting, yeah, when they were preparing me, they said, the opponents, they say, the defense, they say that's the glasses, and then that their envelope. That's their theory, is that those are the glasses. Why would they point that out to her unless they had an alternate theory? So she's saying, well, they didn't tell me that it wasn't supposed to be the glasses, or they denied it was the glasses. Well, that was certainly the implication when you go, okay, now when you're up on the stand and they point this out, they're going to try to get you to say that's the envelope. They think that's the envelope with the glasses in it. Their theory of the case is that's the envelope with glasses in it there. Did they tell her that because they wanted her to agree with the defense and go, oh, yeah, those are the glasses? No, even if they didn't explicitly tell her, we don't want you to say those are the glasses, or we don't think those are the glasses. That would probably be heavily contextually implied. And now she's just telling them all about it.
And
He's sad because his tie's not as cool as Johnny Cochran's.
now going to show another small segment of the videotape that was shown by the prosecutor on direct examination.
Which item?
1078.
These are cheap replicas.
There appears to be a dark object off to one side, yes.
Is that dark object OJ Simpson? Oops.
Now, when you saw this videotape, when you were being prepped, I'm sorry, you did see this videotape while you were being prepped, didn't you?
I saw the videotape, yes.
Well, I mean, you didn't see it for the first time when you were on direct examination in this trial, did you?
That's correct.
And when you were being prepped by, I'm sorry, and when you testified at the trial, you were asked by Mr. Goldberg, is that the leather glove? And I believe you said no. Is that correct?
Yeah, this is an impeachment.
Oh,
I don't know if those were the exact words.
In sum and substance. Would that be a fair statement, ma'am?
oh,
That would be a fair statement.
Okay. But when you were prepped by the prosecutor in this case, weren't you told that it was the defense position that the brown object that you see on the white sheet of white blanket in this picture was in fact the Bundy glove? Were you told that?
I was asked if I remember the glove being there in that position.
No,
And
she's
then they mentioned
she's
that
using the
defense
side
was
of her gloved
thinking
hand
it was the
to
glove.
lift up some files
And
that are
so
on the
you knew
monitor
when
so
you
she can see the
testified at
monitor.
trial here and said it wasn't the glove, that the defense was taking the position that it was the glove, correct? You knew that before you took the witness stand.
Yes.
I testified to where I remember seeing the glove myself.
Well, Ms. Mazzola, you knew before you got on the witness stand at this trial that the defense was taking the position that that was the glove, didn't you?
She's
Yes.
handling evidence.
And Ms. Mazzola, when you got on the witness stand here on direct examination, had you already been told that that glove had been moved at least once prior to the time that it was collected?
I think that I remember hearing that it had been turned over or moved slightly.
Had you been shown photographs which displayed the glove in two different locations?
Two different positions, yes.
What the fuck is the difference between two different positions and two different locations? Both of them mean you touched it. See, this goes all the way back to the early stages of Dennis Fung's testimony when he said, no, did you move, were the glasses and the glove moved? No. Then they showed a picture of the glove in one position, and then they showed a picture of the glove in a different position. The glove at the murder scene, the glove and the eyeglasses had been moved, and they took pictures, they moved them, and then they tried to put them back in basically the same position they were before they moved them. Why on earth would they move the bloody glove and the bloody envelope with glasses in it? Why would they do that? Because they had to drag, I believe it was Ron Goldman's body, through the crime scene. Yeah, they drug his body through the crime scene, and the glove and the envelope with the glasses in it were in the way. So they moved those two pieces of evidence, drug a bloody corpse through that part of the crime scene, and then tried to put the glove and the eyeglasses back in the same place they found them. I wish I was making that shit up, but that's literally what they did. They moved two critical pieces of evidence to a different place, drug a bloody corpse through the scene, and then put those pieces of evidence back where they thought they went. Congratulations, state. You guys are good.
Right? And would it be fair to say, Ms. Mazzola,
Way.
that you didn't know when you saw the glove in those two different positions whether the glove had been moved from position one to some other position and then have had someone else return it to what you saw as position two? Is that a fair statement?
Unintelligible.
Ooh.
I just testified to where I remember seeing the glove when I saw it.
But Ms. Mazzola, even before you testified as to where you remember seeing the glove, you told us a moment ago that you were shown photographs which showed the glove in two different positions, correct?
Correct?
And would you agree that for the glove to get into two different positions, it had to have been moved by somebody or something? Would that be correct?
Overruled.
Yes, I believe it was Ron
Correct.
Goldman's
And isn't
bloody
it also
corpse who was
possible, Ms.
drugged through
Mazzola,
the crime scene.
that the glove was originally in the position displayed in the first photograph that you saw, and then somehow it got moved to another location, and then someone simply put it back close to where it was initially, and so you saw it in the second position.
Sustained.
Oh, Patricia Andrews, my sweet summer child. The coroner allowed this? Well, there was also a lot of testimony during Dennis Fung's just beat down on the stand because he was saying no one entered the crime scene while we were collecting evidence. The criminologists, we were collecting evidence and nobody entered the crime scene. But then they showed pictures of the people from the coroner's office walking through the middle of the crime scene with just dress shoes on. They didn't have foot coverings on. They didn't have the bodysuits on. They were just wearing normal everyday clothes with normal everyday shoes, walking through the crime scene while the evidence was being collected by the criminologists. So the coroner, the criminologists, they're the ones that would tell the coroners it's okay to come in. The coroner doesn't control the crime scene. The criminologist does. So the coroner should be listening to the criminologist. Yeah, they'll tell them when they get to go in. But yeah, so they were the coroner. I mean, they were part of the problem. They're just traipsing through the crime scene in their street clothes and their street shoes.
All right, council, we're going to take our recess at this point. Ladies and gentlemen, please remember all of my admonitions to you. Do not discuss the case amongst yourselves. Don't form any opinions about the case. Do not conduct any deliberations till the matter has been submitted to you. And do not allow anybody to communicate with you. And we will resume at 10:30. Ms. Mazzola, you may step down. If you would, repackage those items, please, and return them to Mrs. Robertson.
Okay, exactly. Alabama Rose saying this has been the most hideous, unprofessional idiocy I've ever seen. We've only shown you, what, 4 witnesses? 4, maybe 5 witnesses? Maybe 6. I think we've showed 6 total witnesses. That's all out of 11 months of trial. So, I mean, this is it. You're absolutely correct. They screwed it up. They're why OJ walked. That's exactly what I'm trying to show with this. Not change anybody's mind whether he did it or not, because everybody's got their own damn opinion and it's never, ever going to change. I just want you to see how when you have a good lawyer, when you have an expert lawyer, when you have one of the greatest legal minds in the United States, not just one of them, but 6 or 7 of them on your team, they can fight for you. They can fight against the nearly unlimited budget of the government that the government is bringing to bear on you to take away your liberty and or actually literally kill you. And I think you can see just listening to someone saying they moved 2 very important pieces of evidence, a bloody glove and eyeglasses, to drag one of the victims through the crime scene and then tried to put them back. Forget everything else you've heard. I mean, how does this not show you reasonable doubt? And again, whether he did it or not doesn't enter into this picture. Let's just say he did it. Well, they have to prove, and they didn't prove it because they're just fucking around with the evidence. You're making it a little bit better. There's no blood on one of the back gates, and suddenly there is a spot of blood 2 weeks later, and it just happens to have some preservation chemicals in it as well. I mean, it's not normally present in the human body. They go, oh, look at this. We must have missed this blood spot 2 weeks ago. And we've got people being drugged through crime scenes. We've got coroners walking through it. We've got a rogue cop that's clearly planting evidence and is a clear racist and said he'll plant evidence if any black man has the audacity to think he can marry a white woman. I mean, All of these things. This is how you cause reasonable doubt. Now, you may have a slam dunk case, but you fuck around with the evidence, you play fast and loose with the rules, you lie, you obfuscate, and it comes back to bite you in the ass. You can have all of the DNA evidence you want, but that's just, that's one step away from voodoo for most people. Oh, I guess we're supposed to believe those numbers. All right. And that's all we can tell you about DNA and how it works. But when you go, all right, look what the fuck they were doing. All right, these guys are shitty. They're shady. There's no way this guy, no way they did this right. We're letting him go. And it frustrates me that the cops do this all the time.
In direct examination, Ms. Mazzola, you testified that a criminalist must use his or her discretion in deciding which items to collect.
Correct.
And I believe you testified that a criminalist can't simply pick up every little bit of paper at a crime scene. Is that correct?
Oh, God, yes.
Correct.
And I believe it was your position that if you do that, you're simply adding a lot of garbage. Is that what you said, ma'am?
Something to that effect.
Now,
yeah, she said you can't pick up every piece of, because it said, well, why did you pick up this piece of paper and not that scrap of paper? Well, you can't pick up everything. Well, what if that other piece had important information or evidence on it?
now Ms. Mazzola, you see the piece of paper on the tile in between the person who was pointing and the white envelope?
On the tile?
Did you see a piece of paper on the ground?
Oh, just Don, I will agree that this jury was probably looking for a reason to acquit
something
him.
on the tile.
Well, it's an object
And they
other
found
than the
it.
tile itself. Is that correct?
Excuse me, Mr. Neufeld, you need to let Ms. Mazzola finish answering.
Sorry, Your Honor. Sorry, Ms. Mazzola.
It appears to be something other than the tile.
And I'd like you to take a look at the photo itself. You may see better resolution, Ms. Mazzola.
I have to go take my laundry out of the dryer. Hang on, I will be right back in a
Would you
minute.
agree that it appears to be a piece of paper?
In the meantime, just
sitting on the
enjoy
tile.
the lovely picture of
Yes.
Elaine Brederax.
And Ms. Mazzola, that piece of paper was not collected by you on June 13th, was it?
No, I did not remember seeing the paper on June 13th.
And you never saw Dennis Fung collect that piece of paper, did you?
No.
Had you seen that piece of paper, you would have certainly collected it, wouldn't you?
I would have looked at it to find out what it was.
Well, wouldn't you be concerned as a criminalist that that piece of paper found so close to the body of Nicole Brown Simpson could have a fingerprint belonging to the assailant?
Yes, it's possible.
And that if the assailant was bleeding at this point in time, that piece of paper might have a drop of blood that belonged to the assailant, correct?
It's a possibility.
That piece of paper might even have writing on it, which would give some indication as to either the identity or the motive of whomever or however many people that were involved in this case were the assailants.
Sustain.
In other words, Ms. Mazzola, that piece of paper found so close to the body of Nicole Brown Simpson could have been a very relevant piece of evidence.
Sustain, but the jury can draw their own conclusion given the proximity.
Never mind, they're not dry yet.
You know,
Don't worry, I'm not going to go full Megan Fox here.
Ms. Mazzola, calling your attention now to the
No laundry
drops of
streams.
blood that were on the walkway at Bundy. You collected 5 drops of blood. Is that correct? 5 blood stains on that walkway.
Let me check, make sure
Please
exactly
do.
how many.
Ms. Mazzola, the reason that you collected those drops is because you have been told by the detectives that these drops might perhaps come from the person who was the assailant, as a possibility. Weren't you told that?
That was a possibility, yes.
And the detectives, I believe, walked you and Dennis Fung along that walkway, pointing out the different blood drops or blood stains to you, did they not?
I went up to a certain point on the walkway. They were pointing out the drops, yes.
And when you say they were pointing out the drops, they were pointing out the stains. Isn't that right?
Correct.
Fire Pixie, member for 2 months, says hello, Fire Pixie, and thank you for the
And
chat.
now that you have seen Detective Lang and Van Adder, and you know what they look like, the detectives who took you on this walkthrough, were either of them Detective Lang or Van Adder?
I can't remember which ones were there that day.
How many different detectives took you on that walkthrough, approximately?
I wasn't counting detectives. I don't know.
All right, well, was it more than two?
There was more than one.
All right. And they were both speaking and pointing out different items to you and Dennis Fung?
They were talking to Mr. Fung, yes.
And you could hear what they were saying?
Certain portions, yes.
And you collected every stain that you saw along this walkway, did you not?
The stains were in the trail, yes.
Okay. And could you step down for 1 second, please?
All right, you have the long pointer there. Mr. Nico.
Okay. Ms. Mazzola, you said you collected every stain that was along that walkway, correct?
Correct.
And you didn't simply say, I will only collect representative stains, did you?
On this, no.
You made a decision with Dennis Fung that you would collect each and every stain along that way, correct?
I was told to pick up every stain.
By Dennis Fung.
The sound went to shit.
And he told you that even before you started picking up the stains, didn't he?
Yes.
Now, item number 50, by the way, isn't it true that you would collect items of evidence in sequence?
Are we bothering you, Marcia? Are you late?
Possible, yes.
So the photo ID numbers that you use, such as 112 for item 47, was collected before photo ID number 113, which corresponds to item 48. Isn't that right? That was your practice.
For the most part.
Well, was that your practice to do that?
Asked and answered.
Oh,
On this occasion, we started working on the trail, the walkway, because we wanted to get those stains up first.
Okay. Well, did you pick up the stains on the walkway before you picked up the perishables and loose items of evidence, such as the hat and the glove and the keys?
No, they were recovered first, and then we went on to the walkway.
Okay, so first you picked up the items, the perishable items, and then you started collecting the stains. Is that right?
sustained. Assumes facts that aren't in evidence.
First you started collecting the non-stain evidence, and then you went on to collect stains. Is that correct?
Correct.
And when you got to that walkway and you started collecting them, did you collect item 47 first on the walkway?
Yes,
And then you collected item 48, correct?
correct.
And then you collected item 49, is that right? Could you please point out to the jury where items 47, 48, and 49 are?
47, right here. 8 and 49.
Can you see that too? And then did you then go on to pick up item 50?
Yes,
And could you please point out where item 50 is? And would you agree, ma'am, that item 50 is located simply a few feet from the back gate along that walkway?
On the diagram, it appears to be close to the back gate.
All right? And in fact, ma'am, to get, then at some point, did you pick up item 52 after you picked up item 50?
Yes,
And to get to item 52, you had to walk through the back gate, didn't you?
I just kept on going. There was no gate barring my way.
Well, Ms. Mazzola, are you saying that there was no gate at the Bundy walkway on June 13th, 1994? Is that your testimony?
I do not recall seeing a gate on that morning.
Well, Ms. Mazzola, if other witnesses had testified that they were absolutely certain that there was a gate present at the rear of that walkway on June 13th, would that affect your testimony today as to whether or not there was a gate there on June 13th?
It's improper.
Sustained.
Do you have any reason to believe, Ms. Mazzola, that there wasn't a gate there on June 13th when you collected the evidence?
Argument assumes facts not evidence.
Sustained. Ms. Mazzola, have you been back to the scene since at Bundy?
Yes, I have.
Have you seen the gate back there?
I have seen the gate since, yes.
Proceed.
Thank you.
Convenient.
When you were at the SID Mini Academy, Ms. Mazzola, did they teach you how to look for evidence?
Yes,
In fact, when you were at Rockingham that morning, Ms. Mazzola, you and Dennis Fung looked all along the driveway systematically for every possible red stain along the way, didn't you?
yes,
And you'd been taught to do that at the SID Mini Academy, hadn't you?
yes,
And likewise, Ms. Mazzola, at Bundy, as you proceeded along that walkway, in that line, you were looking for as many red stains as could be there, correct?
in that trail, yes.
And when you say that trail, you mean all the way from where 47 is, and could you point to 47, please? And now could you point to 52? And all along that line, connecting those two dots, from 47 to 52, you were looking systematically all along that way for any red stains. Isn't that correct?
The area had already been searched for red stains. I was following the trail that I was told to pick up.
Ms. Mazzola, a moment ago I asked you whether or not you had been taught to systematically examine trail or walkway for any and all red stains. I
Yes,
believe you answered yes. Is that correct?
correct.
And when you were at the Bundy location that day, ma'am, were you also systematically examining that walkway from item 47 to item 52 for the presence of red stains?
It's Vegas, whether you as collective or.
Hey, Sally, welcome. Good to see you.
Were you doing that?
It had already been searched for red stains before I started collecting them.
Yes. And the person who searched for red stains before you started collecting it was you and Dennis Fung. Isn't that correct?
Myself up to a certain point with Mr. Fung, and the detectives and Mr. Fung continued on out the back.
Ms. Mazzola, who told you to pick up item 52?
Mr. Fung,
He told you that there was a blood stain outside the rear gate, correct?
who told me there was a blood stain on the driveway.
Have you been taught, Ms. Mazzola, at the SID Mini Academy to independently look for evidence when you're at a crime scene?
To a certain extent, yes.
Have you?
Oh, no. Again, did you check the entire sidewalk? Who checked the sidewalk? You and Fung? Oh, me a little bit, then Fung the rest. I just did what I was told, but I love how he calls it at the Mini Academy. You just can't say the Academy, the Mini Academy. Didn't they teach you should also be looking for evidence? Miss Criminalist, you should be doing your own searches for evidence. Well, yeah, and now he's going to go, well, why the fuck didn't you do it?
You've been taught, Ms. Mazzola, to keep your eyes open as you walk through a crime scene to see if there's any relevant evidence.
Yes,
And Ms. Mazzola, did you keep your eyes open when you left item 50 and headed through the rear gate to item 52?
my eyes were open when I went out the back.
Okay. And when you walked out that back, you didn't see any red stains on the rear gate, did you?
Assumes facts not evidence, just not the gate.
Oh,
I honestly don't remember seeing a gate there.
Well, Ms. Mazzola, now that you said you've been back to that location, correct?
Correct,
And you know the gate is there.
correct.
And you know from speaking to other people about this case that the gate was there, in fact, on the 13th, don't you?
Yes, it was there on the 13th.
And so once again, I ask you, when you were walking from item 50 to item 52 with your eyes open, did you notice any bloodstains on the gate?
I did not notice the gate.
Did you notice any bloodstains there, Ms.?
If she can't notice a fucking gate, how is she going to notice a little tiny blood stain somewhere? This is not helping her. This line of testimony is not helping her.
Ms. Mazzola?
This is perhaps your next answer.
Sustained. She's answered she didn't see the gate. If she didn't see the gate, she couldn't see anything that wasn't on it. Or was on it.
Thank you. Let me turn to you. Ms. Mazzola, when you were prepped to testify in this case by the prosecutors, were you told that there was an issue in this case, that is, the fact that blood drops, alleged blood drops, were not recovered from the gate on June 13th, but were recovered from the gate 3 weeks later? Were you told that
I remember hearing something about that.
during the prep sessions?
I remember hearing something about
I
that.
can't recall if it was during the prep sessions or not.
And were you told during those prep sessions, Ms. Mazzola, that one way to deal with that particular problem would be to say that you never even saw the gate when you were there?
No,
Did you come up with that idea on your own, ma'am?
Sustained.
When you went back to Rockingham for the second time, Ms. Mazzola, did you make any contemporaneous note to indicate the time that you arrived back at Rockingham?
I don't believe we did.
Now, do you know what time you left Bundy?
The approximate time, yes,
And how do you know the approximate time?
because it was written down while we were in the truck going back to Rockingham.
And where did you write that down?
I believe it was in the notes. Let
Which note?
me check.
Can I first witness to see what note she's looking at?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Goldberg?
I have it written down here.
Well, when you say you have it written down here, that's not an original entry that was made contemporaneous to the making out of these field notes on the 13th, is it?
It doesn't appear to be.
Okay. Do you have any contemporaneous note that you made to indicate what time you left Bundy?
There doesn't appear to be.
And a moment ago, ma'am, when you testified that you wrote down the time you had left Bundy while you and Dennis Fung were in the van on the way back to Rockingham, is that something that you had just made up?
Just made it up. In the meantime, we've had a Chandler Remington sighting. Yeah, she's exceptionally and extraordinarily tired from busy and taxing past couple of days. So she's taking it easy. She says to pass along her love to everyone. So everyone, the love of Chandler Remington is being passed on to you. There you go. Get back at it.
Full roll.
I believe we had written down the time.
Well, what was your basis? You testified a moment ago that you wrote down the time you left Bundy in the van while you and Dennis Fung were on your way back to Rockingham.
That I knew the approximate time that we had left Bundy.
But did you have an independent recollection of actually writing it down while you were in the van in transit?
I can't remember if I recall if it was exactly when we were in the van, if we had just left or we were sitting in the truck getting ready to leave or
But
what.
you said you had independent recollection. I'm sorry. Okay,
Counsel,
sorry. Please.
No, go ahead.
But a moment ago, you testified that you did have a recollection that either while you were sitting in the van or while the van was in transit, that you actually wrote down an entry as to the time that you had left Bundy. Wasn't that what you just testified to a little while ago?
Correct.
My question to you is, ma'am, when you testified to that a little while ago, did you simply make that up?
No, I thought we had.
And what was your basis for believing that you had done that?
That I knew the approximate time we had left.
Well, and what was the source of your information as to the approximate time that you left?
The time that I had in my notes.
But the time you just put in your note is not a note that you made on June 13th, is it?
It appears not to be.
all right, now we've gone through this twice now.
Yeah, but Your Honor, she's just making shit up, and I want to make sure people know it.
As best you can recall at this time, Ms. Mazzola, what time did you leave Bundy?
Approximately 3:15 or so.
Yet, would you agree, Ms. Mazzola, that you have no independent basis for estimating that time?
Sustained.
Now, when you first got back to Rockingham, Ms. Mazzola, the first place you inspected was the exterior south side of Mr. Simpson's residence. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And while you were down inspecting and examining that location on Mr. Simpson's property, you noticed a red mark on a wire hanging down. Did you not?
It was brought to my attention that there was a red mark on a wire back there.
And who was it who brought that to your attention?
I can't remember if it was Mr. Fung or a detective.
And after it was brought to your attention, did you then return to the front of the house to go get your stain collection kit?
Yes,
And then once you got the stain collection kit, you alone went back to the side of the house to collect that stain. Is that right?
correct.
And that reddish discoloration that you collected on that wire, that became item number 11, did it not?
Yes,
And you collected that item number 11 without Dennis Fung even being present to observe. Isn't that correct?
that's correct.
And just like the other stains that you collected that day, you swatched the reddish area, did you not?
I swatched the area that came up phenol positive. I had trouble seeing exactly the red mark itself.
Ms. Mazzola,
You're just making
you
shit
saw
up,
a
aren't you?
reddish discoloration on the wire?
It was pointed out to me, but I still couldn't quite make it out.
You're saying that you couldn't make out that it was a reddish stain on the wire before you collected it? Is that your testimony?
The wire was dirty and we did a phenol test on it.
Ms. Mazzola, I'm asking, may I have a sidebar, Your Honor? Just-
Yes, you may,
Thank you.
with the court reporter.
I want to hear what's said there. I want to hear
Thank
what's
you,
said
counsel.
there.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, with regards to Ms. Mazzola's testimony concerning the testing of the wire using the phenolphthalein presumptive test, I'm going to direct you to disregard her testimony that she got a positive result from that test. The reason for that is phenolphthalein is what is called a presumptive test. It only means that it's possible that blood is there, but other things also give a positive test. And unless there is a test to confirm that it is in fact blood and human blood, then you should not consider that result. So since there is no confirmatory test on this particular wire, you were to disregard the fact that there was a positive phenolphthalein result on the wire.
Kudos to Judge Ito there. That's how you do that. That's how you strike testimony. You don't just say, please disregard and move on. You do that. You say you're supposed. I'm instructing you to disregard that because of these reasons. That's how you do it right there. I give Ito a 12 out of 10 for explaining that striking out of testimony. Okay, yeah, it tested positive for blood. Oh, just disregard that you heard her say that it tested positive for blood. They're going to go, wait, she said it tested positive for blood, and now you're telling us to disregard that? Well, I'm going to remember that now, instead of saying disregard it because it didn't test positive for blood. It was presumptively tested for something that might possibly be blood, but they didn't actually go and check if it was blood or something else. So it wasn't blood, basically saying she's wrong. That's a good, I mean, that's a 12 out of 10. Kudos to Judge Ito. Yeah, there we go. Judge, you rock. Player information about Bryco.
All right, thank you. Mr. Neufeld.
Thank you.
I will allow the testimony to stand, however, as to her taking the swatch.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And taking the swatch and putting it in the bag.
Yes,
Okay.
proceed.
In fact, when you collected item number 11, Ms. Mazzola, did you make a control swatch?
Yes,
And then you also made a separate swatch of the item of evidence. Is that correct?
correct.
And even before you collected item 11, Ms. Mazzola, did you make an entry in your field notes indicating the location of the item?
Yes,
And when you collected the item, did you also make an entry in your field notes as to the time at which you collected it?
yes.
And what was the time, ma'am?
It's approximately 1540.
Now, Ms. Mazzola, you testified that you learned subsequent to your testifying on August 23rd that it really was not necessary for you to fill in the time for every item that you collected at a crime scene. Is that correct?
Correct.
And were you told that you only had to enter the times where it was relevant?
Some people said that, yes.
Well, let me ask you what your criteria were on June 13th.
Oh.
What was your criteria for deciding when to write down a time on the field notes as opposed to those instances where you chose not to write down a time?
Oh, God.
I really don't remember what my criteria was.
Yeah, on their field notes, they didn't write down the times they collected the evidence. They often didn't even write down who collected the evidence. And he's asking why. She just basically just said, I don't know why we didn't do it. I don't know why we didn't write down the times evidence were collected. Why the fuck would that be important? And that was one thing that Fung said. They wouldn't write down the times or who collected the evidence unless they thought it was important evidence. The criminologists are actually out there collecting evidence saying, this will probably be important. Let's write down the name and the time. This might not be important. So yeah, we don't have to write down the time. And then if it became important later, they would try to go back and they'd try to walk it back and try to remember who collected it and about what time. And then they would fill it in on the evidence collection form. Doofuses.
At the time.
Well, by looking at your field notes now, can you reconstruct what your reason was for writing down times that you collected some items, but not writing down the times that you collected other items?
Not really.
But it is your best recollection that the primary criteria should be when the criminalist believes it relevant. Is that right?
From what
Yes.
I've learned subsequent to.
Not subsequent
yes.
to.
Now, for item number 6, which was a blood stain at Rockingham, you did write down the time, did you not?
I believe so.
Why don't you check your notes?
Let me make sure. Yes.
But you didn't write down the time for any of the stains that you collected at Bundy. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, is the reason that you gave that kind of disparate treatment to the single drop at Rockingham as opposed to any and all of the stains at Bundy because you believe that item number 6 at Rockingham was relevant and the time you collected item number 6 at Rockingham was relevant, but the time that you collected any and all of the stains at Bundy were irrelevant?
Unintelligible and also
Unintelligible.
draw mistakes. That's what.
Oh, do you understand the question?
Not really.
Rephrase the question.
Certainly. You would agree that you didn't note the time that you collected any of the stains at Bundy, is that right?
Yes.
That's correct.
My question, therefore, Ms. Mazzola, is the reason that you recorded the time you collected item number 6 at Rockingham, but didn't record the collection of any of the stains at Bundy because you deemed time to be relevant for item number 6, but irrelevant with respect to all the blood drops at Bundy?
No.
Well, if relevant was supposed to be the criteria by which you decided whether to note the time, then what was the reason why you noted it for number 6 at Rockingham, but didn't note it for a single stain at Bundy?
So it's facts and evidence. That's what.
Overruled.
I learned that it would be relevant since then. At the time, I was trying to keep track of the time. When we arrived at Bundy, Mr. Fung informed me that we'd be collecting a lot of samples. The time that we started picking up, the time that we ended, keep an eye on that. Individual samples don't bother.
Well, when you say the time that you started, you mean the time you collected the first item and the time that you collected the last item?
He said, try to keep an eye on that, and that
Okay.
was it.
Did you note, what was the first blood stain that you collected at Bundy? Bundy.
Property item 41.
That was the first stain you collected? And did you note in your field notes the time that you collected the first stain?
No.
What was the last stain that you collected at Bundy?
Hmm?
The last stain was from a shoe print that Mr. Fung lifted.
And did you note the time of that?
No, we did not.
So is it now your best recollection that Dennis Fung told you to note the time you collected the first stain and the time you collected the last stain, but you simply forgot to do it?
Yes.
And once you entered the house, after you collected item 11, the first item that you collected inside the house was item number 12, is that right?
Correct.
And those would be the drops of blood that you found in the foyer of Mr. Simpson's home.
Correct.
And before you collected item number 12, you did an inspection of the first floor of the house, did you not?
I can't remember if we inspected first or picked up first.
All right. Well, what time did you actually pick up item number 12? Did you record that in your notes?
Let's see. Yes,
And what time was that?
16:30,
That would be 3:30, 3:30? No, 4:30.
4:30.
4:30 in the afternoon. Thank you. And either before or after you picked up item 12, you did do an inspection of the first floor of the house looking for bloody clothing. Is that right?
For blood in general.
All right. Looking for blood stains,
Correct.
looking for blood smears,
Correct.
looking for flecks of dried blood.
Correct.
And you examined the kitchen, didn't you?
Yes.
You examined the kitchen sink?
I did not personally.
Well, do you know whether Dennis Fung examined the kitchen sink?
No foundation, personal knowledge.
Overruled.
Personally, I don't know if he did or not.
Right? Did you examine the laundry room?
Yes,
Did you examine the living room
yes,
and the dining room?
yes,
And would you agree that except for the several drops that you found right in the foyer inside the front door, that there were no bloodstains found anywhere on the first floor of that house?
that's correct.
And that there was no blood smears found anywhere on the first floor of that house?
That's correct.
And that there were no blood flakes of dry blood found anywhere on the first floor of that house?
We did not find any.
Well, and that's what you were looking for, weren't you?
That's correct.
And you were taught, ma'am, looking for blood evidence to examine the location in a systematic way. Isn't that correct?
It is redundant.
Not to the inside of the house.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Especially with negative results.
Well, folks, that's a good place to end. We're an hour and a half into it. So let's kind of pop that there and bring me back up. Oof. Mazzola took a beating today. Dang. Oh, there we go. Been there, done that, coming in right under the wire. So we have to make the adjustment. Where are we at here? All right, let's see here. And there. Done that. US $6 for the vice racks of the day. Couldn't let Wolfram go wire to wire. Had to come in with a $6 super chat to dethrone Wolfram as the vice racks. But anyway, thank you. Thank you so much for that. Now let's see what you had to say. Let's get back to the comments here. Been there, done that says, do you think his curls are natural or is it a perm? It's natural. He looks like that today. That's what I want. That's what I'm saying. Joyce says, yay, been there, done that. Yay, vice racks of the day. MLS Law popping in here. Howdy. I feel like blood flakes might be a delicacy in certain Asian countries, but yeah, well, they do have like blood soup here in Korea. It's kind of not my most favorite dish ever. It's just kind of, yeah, it's basically just soup. It's boiled in cow's blood. Yum. It's really, really offensive to me. It smells bad and tastes worse. Right. Blood. It sounds like it's like a vampire cereal. That's what they should have called like Boo Berries or Count Chocula. They should have called them blood flakes. Anyway, Who you calling a cootie queen, you lint liquor, says Jeff. Do you know if your Legal Vices t-shirts are see-thin and see-through or no way, only the best? They're actually pretty heavy material. The t-shirts they're good quality, heavy cotton. They're quite nice. They're kind of warm. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be ordering a hoodie, probably a long sleeve shirt, just to check them out. But yeah, the t-shirts, I got two of the t-shirts. They're both fairly hefty. So can't see through them. You don't want to see through my Law Racks t-shirts. All right, everybody. Well, I guess that kind of brings us to the end of a show here. This was our Thursday OJ chill stream, and that's what we did. We chilled. We just kind of took it. We chatted. It's kind of we're winding down. I think people are losing interest in OJ. So, there's a plan sort of formulating in the back of my head here that says we'll finish Mazzola in 5 or 6 weeks, 5 or 6 episodes, and then we might go to closing arguments and the verdict, and then do a different trial maybe. Because I think people are just about OJ'd out after a year We're coming up on a year of, well, we've actually been doing it more than a year, but on a year's worth of programs. So, yeah, we can either continue with OJ, but probably not, because it seems like the interest is waning for the OJ stream. So, well, we might go and do a new retro stream. We'll just have to see how it works. But let's see. Oh, I did feel bad because yesterday I forgot to thank the mods. I always do that, but we were in such a hurry to get on over to Megan Fox's thing that I neglected to do that. So I want to give the mods a super duper super extra thanks today to take care of yesterday and today. I apologize for forgetting to thank the mods yesterday. So thank you, mods, for everything you've done, all that you do, and everything that keeps the show running behind the scenes when I'm too busy doing my stuff here. And chat, you guys are great. We have the best chat on the entire internet. The Vice Squad rules. Why am I squinting? I feel squinty today. My eyes are kind of weirdly dry. There we go. Hi. I'm not squinting anymore. Don't know why I was squinting. But yeah, thank you, Vice Squad. You guys are the greatest. The Vice Squad chat is the best chat. I'd have no reason to be here without the Vice Squad. So thank you all for being here very, very much. And let's see who we can redirect to. Who is covering what at the moment? All right, quick audience poll here. Do we 1 for Megan Fox Maya trial, 2 for the real lawyer? The lawyer real lawyer reacts. I'm not sure what the case is. More evidence, more something. And we got one for Megan, 2 for lawyer, That's the options we've got at this point in time. Looks like it's Megan Fox it is. Okay. We will go on over, give Megan Fox a big ol' howdy, and tell her that I sent you. So she knows that we're all here. And tomorrow, do not miss tomorrow. We're going in with YNW Melly. The latest updates from jury selection, new charges have been brought against him, including witness tampering. New prosecutor is there. It's there is so much to update, and we're gonna do as much as we can, including watching an interview with on Law and Crime with his YNW Melly's ex-girlfriend, was a girlfriend at the time, and we'll do a bunch of other things. Tomorrow is going to be a good night. Don't miss it. Then Maritime Monday, some Murdoch stuff on Tuesday, and we'll see what to do from there. Take care, everybody. Till we see you tomorrow. Make sure you enjoy your legal vices. So on behalf of Chandler, Remington, who's taking it easy, and myself, Lorax out. Peace.